Mr. Bill, how you doing?
Good, man. Good. How are you?
Good. So in
Nice.
our last interview, we covered all kinds of interesting stuff, and hopefully we can touch on a bunch of it now. I know there's quite a few people out there that might not be aware of who you are, so go ahead and give us kind of a brief history of who you are and what's your story.
Yeah, so my name's Bill, and I named myself Mr. Bill because I was really uncreative when I named myself, I guess. And then I kind of just have been writing music for the last like 10 years on a computer, and somehow that's spiraled into me making a living from it and just doing this on a daily basis, pretty much.
Nice. And where are you currently located?
Currently located in Denver, Colorado, but I'm originally from Sydney, Australia.
Yeah, your accent gave it away to most of us, hopefully.
Yeah.
How long have you been in Denver?
I've been here for like 2 years now, roughly. I moved here on January no March 15th, 2015. So yeah, coming up 2 years in like a few months here.
How has that whole relocation thing gone for you?
Good, man. I like it. It's yeah, it's great. I love Denver, and it's a cool place to live. I feel like the pace of life here is just a kind of slow, and it's not like a crazy city like LA or something like that. But I feel like it's just as convenient as something like LA for me anyway, because I'm like pretty rooted in electronic music, and the electronic music scene here is amazing, and the airport is like super central, or it's like a big hub in the middle of the country, so it's really easy to get anywhere in the country, and yeah, it's great. I like it.
So that move happened a couple years ago, but I'm curious what led to the move. I don't I don't know if you maybe had spoken to people that had already been here, made a transition from wherever they were to Denver, or how did that whole shift in scenes take place?
So it's basically my manager at the time. He decided, or yeah, I had thought about moving here, but I didn't really like take it seriously. And then my manager was kind of like, "Hey, I'm looking at like the amount of money that you have, and you actually have just pretty much enough to get a visa and move here if you want to do that." And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, maybe that's a good investment." So he made it happen. He got me the visa and sort of bought me the flights and put everything in place so I could like send all my stuff over here. And more or less, it was just kind of like I was coming over here once to twice a year anyway to do tours. So I just figured I'd move over here, I guess.
Yeah, and it's been I don't know if anybody knows out there. There's been some interviews I've done previously with another guy. His name's GDLK, a godlike dubstep guy. He's actually he's located in Denver also. So he was telling me that there's consistently shows out there. How often do you play in Denver?
I don't play in Denver that much. I probably play here like once to twice a year, but I could probably play here like 4 to 5 times a year, and it wouldn't be like weird, and I wouldn't get like oversaturated or anything because there's just so much happening here. It's kind of like playing here once every 3 months to the crowd and the punters feels like once a year in any other market, really, because yeah, I don't know. It's really weird. There's a lot happening here in the electronic music scene. It's like you can kind of go out almost any night of the week and see some crazy shit. So you'll have people like Tipper playing at Red Rocks, and people like Opio selling out shit like the Fillmore, and like all of this crazy stuff that would just never happen in any other city. Like yeah, I don't think Tipper's selling 10,000 tickets anywhere else in the world.
So it's definitely a unique scene as opposed to just being the
It's
best scene.
it's super rich. Like I said, it's the kind of place where Tipper can sell 10,000 tickets, and it's the kind of like, not to discredit him in any way and say like, oh, whatever, he couldn't do that anywhere else. It's like, it's just it speaks for how rich the scene is here. Like I play here, and 600 to 1,000 people come and watch me, whereas if I play anywhere else in the world, I get like maybe 300, usually less, like between 1 and 200 maybe.
I'm curious why that is. Do you have any idea why those numbers vary so greatly?
Dude, I don't know, man. Like something about it. Like it's just the vibe here, and like the air is super fresh because you're up high and weed's legal and there's really nice beer here, and because the altitude's high, maybe it keeps everyone a little bit fitter than in some cities. I don't really. That's probably a
Yeah, where
big
I
thing.
think no, but still, I'm from Denver, Colorado, so I want to rep that place as much as possible, and we're in the top. I want to say it's top 5, but it could be top 3 fittest cities in the nation.
Dude, no doubt. Like the altitude here, fucking is it's killer, man. Like I work out here and it's super hard, and then I go work out at sea level, and I'm just like, what the? This is super easy.
It's super
It's
easy.
kind of yeah. It's sort of like when you just get off the plane here and you start walking through the terminal. You're just like, because of the altitude and stuff.
Right.
And a few times I've been right up into the mountains. Like so, where I live in Denver, it's like 6,000 feet above sea level, I think, or 5,500. And
5,280.
yeah, yeah, and I've been up to the mountains a few times where it gets up to like over 10,000 feet and stuff, and it's killer, man. Like your arms and your legs start to get like numb and shit if you're like up there and walking around for a long time.
It's
Like I did a festival up there. There was a festival in South Park called Sonic Bloom,
Yep, know it
and
well.
yeah, yeah, and that was at 10,000 feet, and I had a few too many beers, and yeah, I started to get a little bit numb and shit, and I was like, this is scary, man. I remember Opio played his set at that party, and they were handing out like canisters of air,
Oh,
like full
oxygen
of
canisters like they do in
yeah,
Peru.
yeah, dude, they were handing those out at this party, and like Opio was playing his set, like jumping around like a madman, and every 10 minutes he'd have to stop and like have a huff on the air can, and
Well, I don't know if you watch professional sports, but it's definitely kind of a thing that the NFL, you'll see those guys on the sidelines when any other team comes to Colorado, to Denver. You'll see those guys constantly on the sidelines huffing their oxygen and whatnot.
the people who aren't from Denver because they're not like acclimated.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's not to say that the players that are from here don't use it, but I never really see players, whether it's a game happening at sea level, it's you never see the oxygen tanks come out, but they definitely break those things out when they're playing games here.
Right, yeah, crazy. I mean, I haven't really watched that much sports here. I'd love to check out that's one thing I haven't done since I've been here. I'd love to check out like some hockey and some baseball and some NBA and shit because I've just never been to any of those kind of things. But I imagine that they're crazy. Like, it
Yeah,
seems
the
to be.
the venues are really cool. The Pepsi Center there, obviously Mile High Stadium. That's a pretty prestigious place for anybody who's from Denver. I would definitely check it out if you have the opportunity.
Yeah, Mile High Stadium's kind of crazy, right? You sort of can drive over the top of it almost and see into it.
Yeah,
Kind of
right
cool.
off of I-25.
Yeah, near like Wazee or whatever it is.
Uh-huh. So
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
so I was curious about obviously, all the conversations that you probably have in these interview settings could just go straight into your music production and what plugins you use and stuff. But I'm given that, I don't want to have one of these vanilla conversations as you typically do have. There's other things I'd like to talk about. For instance, hobbies that you might actually have aside from making music. So you spend quite a bit of time in the studio, but do you ever, get into the mountains and maybe snowboard, or have you ever skied before? Or?
No, I haven't actually. I haven't been up to the mountains this winter yet because I've just been so busy. I like finished a tour on like the start of December, and then since then I've just been in the studio. But I mean, apart from music, I guess this is still music, but I've been playing drums a lot lately. But it's like I guess I haven't like it's not being in the studio, sitting at my computer. It's more just like
Banging
actually
on
playing.
stuff everywhere?
Yeah, exactly. So I guess like that's kind of one of my hobbies, but it still kind of comes under the music umbrella. And then what else? Video games, but that kind of doesn't count because you're just sitting at the computer still.
Yeah, but
Um,
it's a hobby. It counts.
I
You got.
guess, yeah.
I'm imagining there has to be things that people do to alleviate the constant beat making that especially yourself. I know for a fact how much time you spend in the studio. I was curious what you do as a release for all that time that you spend in front of a computer making music.
Yeah, so 5 times a week usually, or 3 to 5 times a week, I try to get out of the house on 3 to 5 of the days and go to like a CrossFit gym and work out. So I'm just out of the studio for a couple of hours, and then I go to like, have go to the hot tub at the gym or something, and then try and just like chill and like stretch my body out and do other things to kind of I guess counteract all the sitting down and nothing.
Yoga.
So no, I haven't really fucked with yoga actually.
I would fuck with yoga, man. I'd try that out, man. It's good.
Dude, yeah, my girlfriend messes with yoga, and yeah, she says it's super good.
Well, even Pilates. I don't know if you've ever heard of Pilates. It's another
yeah,
one.
I have. Yeah, I have. I haven't done it. It's like Kegels and shit, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the exercises I know for sure. So you just said you got back from a tour.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I just did like 30 shows around the US. It was cool.
Where exactly were you at?
Oh, everywhere, man. We started in LA.
Right.
Then we went all the way up the West Coast through like Sacramento, Oakland, Portland, Washington, all of that stuff. I think probably a few other. Oh, Tahoe. So yeah, we went right up the West Coast, and then we got up into Kelowna in British Columbia.
Nice.
And then went straight through the middle of Canada to Calgary, and then to Winnipeg. And then from Winnipeg, we went down through the Midwest, so through Minneapolis and Madison, Chicago, and then we did Kalamazoo, Michigan. And then we went all the way up to like the, top of the East Coast. So we started in Vermont, actually. We just stayed at my friend's house there. And then we went all the way down the East Coast. So through New York, Baltimore, all of those sort of markets, all the way down to Florida. And then we ended up
over the place, man.
Yeah, dude. Then we ended up in Orlando, Florida, and played a festival there. Then we went all the way through the South and did like Knoxville and Atlanta and Nashville and Murfreesboro and like all of that stuff. And then we ended up in Asheville and all of that stuff.
And did you drive the entire way?
Yeah, me and a few friends drove the whole way. And
How was that?
It was intense, man. Super intense.
Intense is just the best way to describe it. Not awesome or not horrible, but
it was
probably a little bit of both.
It was non-stop, just completely doing like we were either driving or we were loading gear out of the van and into the venue, or we were waiting to go on stage, or playing the actual show, or loading gear back into the van, or going to like an Airbnb to sleep or whatever, and then getting up and driving again. Like that's basically every single day what we were doing for 2 months.
Oh, that's heavy.
Yeah, and it's like I wasn't just doing like DJ sets either. I was doing like this fucking full on crazy thing with like a big stage, like a back screen. And we were doing rear projection and front projection, and I had a drummer, and I had like myself like 6 fucking MIDI controllers, and I traveled with my desktop computer because I couldn't run shit off my laptop because my set was too hefty. Oof. And then we had like headphone amps going between me and the drummer, and like bunch of signals going to the front of house. And it's like it was super intense. Every night we would run a Cat 5 cable all the way from the stage to the back of the venue through the roof, and we would use that cable to like sync my computer with the visual guys' computers. So like when I would say hit my controller, it would trigger like light explosions on the screen behind me, or like I could send MIDI out of my computer or OSC out of my computer to him, and it would like trigger phonemes and all this visual stuff. And yeah, it was really, really crazy, man.
Was every one of your shows, aside from the live element and the improvisation, but did you have a pretty scripted set, or did it vary from show to show?
So here's the way live electronic music is such a weird thing, because it was super scripted, but at the same time it's like we would play it sort of different every night because we're actually playing the parts. So sort of like the way I would explain it to people who are coming from a DJ perspective is it's like DJs, I'll say you as in the collective, you guys have like the ability to change whatever track that you're playing at whatever time, whereas you don't have like any way to change what's going on within those tracks, if that makes sense. Whereas I don't have so much control over what track plays at what time, but I have like a lot of control over how the track is played, and like and all of that sort of stuff. So it's kind of like...
So then it obviously gives you a little bit more of an entertainment factor instead of the USB, hit play and pretend
I
like you're
mean,
twisting knobs and stuff.
I would prefer to play the same song every night for a million years and just play it slightly differently and get better at playing it every night than I would DJ. Like, I just hate DJing.
That's it's funny to hear because a lot of people obviously start DJing and then they get into music production, and then obviously there's those types that start in music production and then get some kind of notoriety, and then they're expected to perform their music, and then they're put on stage and this is how you do it. It's two CDJs. Where's your USB? So it's interesting that you have to kind of figure that out.
Man, it's like a fucking phenomenon or like some weird shit to me to see. Like, I came from bands, and for a while I kind of lost touch with that a little bit, and I was not necessarily DJing, but I was playing out of Ableton doing like stem stuff and doing a lot of stuff, but I wasn't really like playing parts live or whatever like I was in bands. So I kind of, yeah, I find it so fucking weird. Like, I'll go to shows and see these people who are huge, who are just like playing songs out of CDJs, and all they're doing is like throwing their arms up in the air, and people are just going nuts to it. And it's like, what are you going nuts for right now? Like, there's and the problem is that I just don't think that people understand what is happening on the stage. Like, people are just like, I think we talked about this last time. Like,
Yeah.
when I first got into electronic music, my friend took me to a psytrance party, and I took some acid, and I was like standing there while this guy was just DJing psytrance, and I was just like, holy shit, like, he's clearly making all of these sounds with his hands, and like,
Clearly.
fuck, yeah. I was like, and it wasn't because I was on drugs. Like, I believed that for a long time, that when someone was DJing, that they were actually just like, that they were doing a lot more than they actually were. And then once I started to slowly realize what it actually was and what it wasn't, then I started to realize how fucking stupid it actually is. And then and I think that that's kind of where the majority of the demographic who are going to these kind of shows falls. They kind of think that it's a lot more than it actually is. And I think part of that is because nobody is really giving them any other reason to believe otherwise. It's kind of like there's not a lot of people who are in that huge sort of Skrillexy position who are giving people live electronic music. They're all just sort of pandering to what the economical thing that they're doing to make the money or whatever.
Right. So then you're forced to have to either come up with some kind of live show, which I totally respect that you guys have done what more than what most DJs or even music producers are doing out there, and actually trying to provide some kind of real live show that could incorporate some some differences from night to night, where it's not the same set, this track. I guess they might mix in a couple different tracks at any different time, but you're up there with your drumsticks and MIDI controllers and doing the whole live show.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm sort of trying to respect a little bit the fan. Like, I'll ask you a question. Have you ever been to a show of an artist that you think is really sick, and then being super underwhelmed because they're just playing tracks off a laptop or CDs?
I would say that's kind of 90% of the 90% of the time I go to shows
Right,
to go
but
see a particular artist. I'm underwhelmed.
right, but you accept it because you respect the artist and you respect their decision, I guess, to do that, right? And that's fine.
And there's no
but,
other
like,
way to see them live other than this is the show they're giving, and if you want to
yeah,
see
exactly.
them, that's what you got to do.
Right, but at some point it almost becomes like, what's the point in even going out to shows anymore if this is what it's going to be? So in some ways, I guess I'm kind of trying to from the inside, like, give shows some vitality for both me and the fan. Like, I want it to be something special, and I want it to be something that is actually worth going to see. Like, I don't want to just do this thing that they could have just done at home, like listen to tracks off SoundCloud or whatever.
How did you design your live show? It couldn't have been 100% all of your energy, because obviously that's seems like a lot of work to design and engineer the show that you got going on. How did it go?
Yeah,
How
yeah.
did it come about from, I guess, the seed idea? I'm sure you had a moment where you decided to do this live show, and then obviously through fruition to where it is now. Who helped you, and how did you get to where you at with the live show?
Yeah, so the original idea was mine, and I had this idea of like me to be on one side of the stage and a drummer to be on the other side of the stage, and then this big inflatable Mr. Bill in the middle of us, and then projection map the inflatable. And so for a while, that's what it was. And I just started contacting visual guys and started to work with projection mapping artists, and I found some really good guys to work with. And then we started doing some shows here and there. And then slowly we realized that it was better to not use the inflatable and instead to use like a cutout, because it's flat and it's like easier to map and stuff.
Right.
So then the stage changed a little bit and the cutout changed a little bit, and then slowly the stage changed a little more, and slowly it just became this big screen that looks like a city. And like yeah,
Oh,
just
so the
over.
beginning shows were an inflatable Mr. Bill,
Yeah,
a
yeah.
character mascot, and then by the time that you guys got to the end, it was a like a completely different show.
Well, this was like
At
over
least in the
multiple.
construction of it.
This was over multiple tours.
Oh, okay.
Um, yeah, but we actually did take the inflatable on this particular tour, and some shows we would set it up, and some shows we wouldn't. And yeah, it
Nice.
just really depended on how we were feeling on the day and what we were doing and stuff. But and also obviously the constraints of the size of the venues and stuff. Like some venues, you come in and you're like, hey, so we have a 16-foot long and 10-foot high stage to set up. Where are we playing? And they're like, oh, you're playing in this tiny fucking room right here. And we're like, okay, that's not happening. So we just like set up the inflatable, you know. So we try to make it work as much as possible in most venues. It was a shame, you know, not being able to set the whole thing up in some venues because of the size restrictions or whatever.
Right.
But we're definitely gonna change the stage again for the next tour so it fits in like more venues and stuff.
Do you have an idea when you're going to do it? When's your next? I know you're. I had heard that you're going to do a few shows back home in Oz soon.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I go to Australia on January 15th, so at the end of this week actually, in a couple of days. And then yeah, I'm playing not that many shows. I think like I'm doing like one in Sydney at the end of February, one in Melbourne at the start of March. I'm doing one in Perth, I believe at the end of January. I'm playing this festival called Regrowth Festival. And then I think at the start or the second week of February, like March or February 10th or something, I'm playing in Canberra at this club called Academy. So yeah, if you're in Australia, come check it out. And then I think in the spring, I might do a tour here in America. But if I
Springtime.
do, yeah, in the springtime here, so that will be like March or maybe April. That would be more of like it wouldn't be a like a full-on heavy dancey crazy set like I've been doing. It would most likely be like an IDM type thing, and it would be without the drummer, I would say. And it would be more of like an AV experience. And then probably in the summer or the fall, I'm gonna try and plan to do some more heavy, crazy, rocky electronic music shows with my drummer here again.
Are you looking to do like one or two a year? Is that how many tours you're trying to get in there?
Yeah, sort of. I guess so. Yeah, yeah. Probably like in the US, maybe 1 to 2 tours a year here, and then in Australia, just one tour a year there, and then Europe just never happens for me because I just don't seem to have any fans over there.
How are
It's
you
not.
received in Oz? I'm curious.
Oh, great, man! Seriously, Australia is like really, really open-minded to a lot of like you can go there and just do like the most crazy sideways sounding shit, and people just love it. Like it's such a good breeding ground for like really, really creative artists. It really is. Like it's a place where you're not shunned for doing stupid stuff. Like if you're in America and you're just writing like crazy wobbly down tempo shit or something, you might not get that many shows. Or if you're just doing some crazy stuff, like people kind of want you to pander to like a certain type of thing or whatever, so you might not do so well. But in Australia, that kind of stuff is like rewarded in some ways. Like you'll get sort of some really nice slots at festivals and stuff doing that stuff.
Because you do a bunch of wacky stuff that nobody's ever really seen. The uniqueness is what sells it.
Yeah, sort of. Like people just love seeing crazy stuff. Like I feel like my stuff, like I obviously built myself in Australia before moving here,
Right.
and I don't think like it would have been, it would have been a completely different story. I feel like if I didn't live in Australia, because there's like a little bit of ego when it comes to writing. I think where I'm not like a egocentric enough person to just, or not a selfish enough person rather, to just write music completely for me. Um, but I'm also not like a strong enough person to have people not like my stuff completely, if that makes sense. Like I need some people to like my stuff and give me
Right.
and give me compliments to like feed my creative energy a little bit,
Right. To
if that makes
stroke your
sense.
ego a little bit. Everybody needs it.
Right, exactly. And my point is that like in Australia I feel like that was happening for me doing really weird shit, and that's kind of, I think, why I became a part of the artist that I did.
Do you think that your unique? Because I'm blown away by the your uniqueness blows me away. I had just seen today, I believe it was, or maybe yesterday, you had posted a small snippet video, with the follow function of there's accordion in there. There's like the wackiest, piano progression, and I'm assuming it gets to like a some crazy kind of drop soon in the next video. But it's some of the most unique material I've heard in a long time, if ever, man. There's nothing that I've heard that sounds like that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the influence for that was sort of like Dream Theater or Liquid Tension Experiment, or sort of that like mathy sort of proggy metal stuff. But I wanted to take that into an electronic sort of realm. But I would love to take that sort of shit live, like having a drummer play that and like playing keyboards over that, and like doing all this crazy theatrical stuff. Like you could have like aerialists and like all this fucking crazy shit, like fireworks and like people in like mimes and shit on the stage being fucking weird. I feel like there's a lot of potential for that style of music to just be the most crazy theatrical live show, which would be
Sounds
super
like a
fun.
string cheese incident.
Totally, yeah, it could absolutely be similar to that. Yeah, I think it's just a matter of money, really. But obviously, going to see a show and like seeing these crazy antics and stuff definitely changes it and makes it more worth seeing, I think.
So, given that I see a lot of your material via Twitch, I know that you're a huge YouTube guy. I'm sure a lot of people might not be aware of the solid presence you have there. Where did your YouTube career start? I'm curious, the beginnings of it.
My YouTube career started back in the day. I was like watching Tom Cosm do tutorials and stuff, and then I learned a lot from him. And then I decided I would make some tutorials because I figured out how to do some things in some ways that he didn't know or wasn't showing people at least. And then so I was like, oh yeah, I'll make some tutorials. So I made some tutorials as well. And then obviously with the rise of streaming, Twitch has become like a thing. So now I've slowly started to move to that a little bit more than YouTube. And generally, well, for the last week or something, I've been spending 3 hours or so a day on Twitch, or 2 hours a day, just writing for a few hours and chatting with people, and it's nice. Man.
This is the 365 Ableton Everyday project.
Yeah, dude. So I got the idea from Gardner, actually. This dude that I did an interview with. You'll see it on my channel if you go check it out. Yeah, Gardner. He's been doing this 365 project, and he's on like day 145 right now. So he's been doing this shit for a minute, like 4 months or 5 months or something. So so I got the idea from him, and I was like, oh, that's cool. It's like I don't want to release stuff every day like he does, but I would like to write every day, like put in a decent session every day. Because so many days where I'm just like, oh, I could put in a 3 hour session to write music, but I just don't. Like I just decide not to. I make that decision and I just decide to play games or some shit, or like, and then I kind of justify it in these ways, like, oh, but I need to rest my creativity, or I need to blah blah blah, do whatever.
Right.
But it's just a cop out. Like it's just a justification
Just
for
an
me
excuse to
being
be lazy.
fucking, yeah, basically.
I'm
So
curious, are you starting a new project every day, or are you is it
yeah,
every day there's a new
new project. Yeah. So straight after we get off this interview, I'm gonna go onto Twitch and start a new Ableton session and write a new song, basically, or get as far as I can in a few hours, and then that's it. So kind of the idea is like I want to I want to have like no rest days, so to speak,
You're
and I
gonna
want to just
amass
like,
so much material. What at the end of the day, what are you gonna do with all this material?
well, I've been coding them all with BPM and key.
Right?
So at the end, I'm sure I can just string together hours of shit. Like I'll probably be like, oh look, I have like 10 pieces that are all like 130 BPM at D minor or something, and I'll just be able to throw them all in together, and then
Ah, that's
or
gonna
I
be
can
crazy.
yeah, or I can even do like big tempo changes or whatever, and the idea is just I'm gonna go through the whole lot, mix it all, string it all together, and then hopefully turn it into like a big live show or something in 2018 or
Or
something.
just some magnum opus, like 30-minute just piece of 365 days worth of material.
Dude, it would be more than 30 minutes. It would be like fucking couple of hours, I would say,
Right,
of
right.
material
I
for
don't know
sure.
what I'm talking about. 30 minutes
Yeah.
over a whole year's amount of time. That's
Yeah, I mean, shit, I've been writing like, probably 2 minutes of music a day. So, um, yeah, so far we're up to January 9th. So that basically, well, actually, I did December 30th too. So I'm on day 10 right now. So we go 10 times 2, that's already 20 minutes of music, basically.
Or do you write in a? I've seen you write music a lot, and this is it's just a personal question. I'm curious when you write. Do you write in a linear fashion where you start and you have whether it's an intro or you start in a particular section and then you move from left to right? Is that kind of how you usually work?
I kind of do, yeah. I kind of treat it like writing a song that progresses. If I'm writing dance music, I find I'll usually start from the drop and then I'll work my way around that, like sort of do build ups and bridges and breakdowns and stuff around the drop, but I'll usually start with the drop. But if I'm doing just music, which sounds a bit elitist, I guess, but like,
Music, the real music.
yeah, when I'm doing the real shit, yeah, I'll generally write it from left to right because it just seems more natural to write a song in the in the fashion that it should be listened to or played in.
I mean, I try to use this method, and it seems it's a little bit difficult to me because I get stuck in the loop section, and then it's a matter of, I mean, say you even get a nice loop, but then you drag everything out, and then you arrange from there. But trying your technique, it's difficult for me. I wish I had more of a grasp of that style because I believe you're listening and playing and inputting info into the computer as you listen to it. It seems like a more fluid kind of way to do it. I just can't grasp it.
Do you play an instrument?
I have some piano skill and a little bit of guitar skill.
Do you like actively play them every day?
I would say no. I'd be
Yeah,
lying if I'd said I did.
how often do you think that you like play piano?
I mean, I write music on a pretty daily basis, so it's a matter
But
of me.
but it's different though. Like
No,
if
you're
you
right.
if
Like
you're
I never just sit and play. No, I
yeah,
never.
yeah.
Let's say never. Then
Okay, yeah, I would say start doing that because that's sort of where like you start to like hear these themes in your head when you're actually playing. Like I do it on a drum kit, but like I'll be like playing a beat and I start to hear these like melodic themes in my head, and then I can sort of from these beats like naturally feel out how a human would play into like a next part or something like that, and
right.
sort of start to just feel naturally out how music should feel and stuff. And I think once you have that connection with it of just sort of being more close to how it should actually feel if you're playing it live, then electronic music sort of becomes just a decoration to that in a way.
It's impressive, man. Really. Now, I'm curious if you're interested in talking about it, because it's been something that's been extremely entertaining for me to follow. The Collab Alliance,
Uh-huh.
a YouTube collective that you guys that you're a part of. Could you clue in the crew what that is? Anybody who's not aware of it, can you tell them what that is?
Yeah, so the Collab Alliance is I think 10 YouTubers or maybe 8 or something. Let me go to the Skype chat and check. So it's like, so the Collab Alliance is me, John Miller, Julian Gray, KJ Sorka, Seamless, Slink, and Tom Cosm. So what's that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of us, I guess. It used to be 8. And then yeah, what happened was I got contacted from Julian Gray, and he was like, "Hey, me, Seamless, and Multiply, I want to do this thing. Do you want to be involved?" And I was just like, "Yeah, sure." And then he said John Miller was involved, and then I was like, "Oh, can I invite some friends?" So I invited Tom Cosm and Slink and KJ Sorka and Il Gates. And then Il Gates couldn't do it, and then KJ ended up doing it, and yeah. So basically, it's like a thing where we just pass around a project file, and each of us takes like an hour to work on it, and then we record our output whilst we're working on it, and then we just upload the videos to YouTube as an episode of Collab Alliance. And I think the last season ended up being like 22 episodes, so it went around the circle like 3 times, and then we had
so
some
good. It's so
yeah,
good.
and it's basically just this like big mishmash of like a lot of people basically trying to get shit done, and it was difficult, man. There's so many, it's almost like a too many cooks thing
In the kitchen, too many Indians and too many chiefs and not enough Indians.
Yeah, dude, exactly.
But it was fun. You ultimately enjoyed it, right?
Dude, yeah, I loved it. I can't wait. Like, we're doing season 2 soon.
When's the release of the original track?
Let me see. I don't know. I'm supposed to do something for Collab Alliance today, actually.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to make like some video of me being like, "Hey, the track's gonna come out soon, and check out stuff," and then put it on YouTube, I guess. But like, I haven't.
You
had
sound
time
so blasé about it.
Yeah, I haven't had time to actually look into it. But I've just been super busy. But yeah. So the track hopefully will come out on KJ's label, Impossible Records. Hopefully within the next like, I don't know, week or 2. And then and then we can start season 2, and we're going to involve, I think, before we do anything with season 2, we're going to sort of sit back and have a Skype call and decide exactly who we want to invite into the alliance, because we want to add more people. And if the group gets too big, I think we might try and split it into 2 groups, basically, like maybe we could set up some sort of test where we have to do like
competition.
Yeah, like a competition just within the alliance of like, like a boot camp or like a speed runs or something, and
red and blue team.
Yeah, break it up into like,
shirts
the elites
and skins,
and
shirts and skins.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, we could break it up into like the elite producers team and the not so elite producers team.
Right. Do you have any idea when season 2 might? I mean, just a ballpark when that might be starting?
I would probably say in the first few months of 2017. I don't see it taking that much longer, but who knows? Hopefully soon, because fun, man. That's a good project to be in.
Oh, it's not only is it funny, you have every different kind of skill set, every different kind of musical taste. It's like everything you could want in a tutorial slash. It's comedy, it's educational, it's the full Monty. I really appreciate it. I can't wait till that comes out, and definitely I can't wait to score the actual tune from the first season.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's right. We haven't put it out yet. That's funny. I keep forgetting, because I guess like I've listened to it a few times. I think it's okay. I don't think it's like an amazing tune. But yeah,
it's just wacky. It's just all over the place. All over the place.
It is. Yeah, it is sort of wacky. It's kind of cool. It has like a very unique sort of character about it, I think.
You mentioned last time that you don't think you'd want to be the one to start it, because then it'll just have your.
Yeah, I think me starting it this time, even though I don't think we used many parts, if any at all, from the original video I did, I still think me just starting it, like picking the key, picking the tempo, and picking the sort of timbres, definitely drove Slink to do some shit that he might not necessarily do, and then drove other people to do shit that they might not necessarily do. So in a way that's kind of good, but also I don't want to be the one to start it next time, because I feel like it would maybe have that same sort of if it starts that way, it's going to kind of end similarly as well, I feel like.
I like the randomizer idea. Just opt out of the option of just going first.
Yeah, totally. We can just get Tom to develop his randomizer a bit more and stuff. I think at some point we might want to. I would like to have the randomizer just sitting on a web page where people can just input their names or whatever, and can just sort of have their own little alliances going or whatever. That would be fun to sort of.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I would like to open source it so everyone can do it, so it's not just us doing it, and turn it into like an actual game with rules that people have to play by and stuff. To have these, maybe we could start like we could team up with a few labels, like some bigger labels, and have their rosters do their own sort of collab alliances and see what labels output what and stuff. Could be interesting.
Can't wait for it, man. So I know that you've been extremely busy as of late with something that I definitely want to talk about. You scored a full-length feature film.
Yeah, dude.
So please go into depth about, everything that involves that whole situation, because it's incredible
Okay.
to imagine that, scoring an entire movie just sounds crazy, especially if you've never done it before. So,
Yeah, man. It was my first film for sure. So I'd never really scored anything before, and I was contacted one day by this director called Brian Taylor, and he made the movies Crank 2 with Jason Statham, and obviously Crank 1 as well.
Crank One.
Um,
Just
well,
original. It
Crank.
was just.
I think
It was just
it was
Crank.
just Crank. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So he made Crank and Crank 2, and Crank 2 was actually scored by Mike Patton. So I had some pretty big shoes to fill there, I feel like. And then he did like Ghost Rider with Nicolas Cage, and then he
Yeah.
did what else did he do? He did Gamer with Gerard Butler.
Right.
So he's done like a few pretty big movies. And then he just hit me up and was like, "Hey, I found out about you through your Ableton tutorials, and I would like you to score this film, basically." So I was like, "All right, cool, sounds good." And then then he just it just went from there. But yeah, the movie's called Mum and Dad, and it has Nicolas Cage and Selma Blair in it. And yeah, one of the things I noticed with scoring film is that you kind of have this funny task of trying to narrate the emotion of the scene and still have the music kind of be super cool but not like overtake it.
Right.
And also another thing is that like in film, I find one thing that you have to do a lot when you're writing music for it is like change tempo a lot and change time signature a lot to sort of suit the cuts.
Right.
And it's really weird because it's not just like writing usually used to just writing tunes in 4/4 or whatever, and just making beats that kind of drop and meander around things, but this stuff's completely different. It's more or less just like making sort of weird pulsy cues and stuff like that. But I actually incorporated a lot of granular synthesis into the score, which was interesting because the director was like, "Holy shit, I've never heard any of this stuff before." And I don't think that granular stuff has been used in film scores, especially not like big Hollywood films, that much at all. So hopefully it's like a good opening to.
I was gonna say you're gonna start a revolution and just have people beating down your door for your sound.
That would be super cool,
That'd
man.
be super cool, man. I'm curious how that
Yeah.
goes. So did they send you the film, or did you do the work in your own home studio? Like, how did that work?
A bit of both. So I got the job to do the film just before I had to go on this tour, and he kind of hit me up and was like, "Hey, do you want to do this?" And I was like, "I really do, but I also am doing this like the biggest tour of my life, so I'm not really sure if I'm gonna have time, but I would love to try." So I flew out to LA like later that week with my desktop computer and some other gear, and then sat down with him, and he was sort of telling me like the vibe that he was going for, but without showing me the film. And a lot of the things that filmmakers do usually is they put in what's called temp music. So they'll just take stuff from like other soundtracks and just temp it in as like a temporary score to cut to. But the problem with that is that you start to fall in love with the temp music and you get what's called temp love. And then it's hard to delete the temp music because...
Oh, there's all this terminology for it too.
Yeah, yeah. So it's hard to delete the temp music because you start to fall in love with the scene with that music, and then once you pull it out and replace it with anything else, it's just never as good.
Right.
And it's really weird. It's like I'm usually pretty good at just like not holding on to things. But temp love is definitely a thing. Like I can't change anything in any of the scenes anymore now because all of the music that I've written just feels so perfect for them now.
Right.
And when you change it for anything else, it just feels weird. So he wasn't temping in anything because he doesn't believe in that because of the temp love thing. So he was like, "All right, I want you to just write these sort of vibey cues and stuff," and was kind of explaining to me the emotion that he wanted it to have. And then I kind of just went along with that and tried to find find the vibe, and then he started sending me scenes after that. So it was I kind of was writing a lot of stuff before I was even getting to
Oh,
see
so
anything.
he actually sends you like a blurb about, this is a scene between Nicolas Cage and blah blah blah, and I want you to write kind of a melancholic blah 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 thing, and then you send him some sample material, and then maybe were you just okayed at that point, and then he starts sending you the actual video to go ahead and move forward, or how does that work?
No, so he would more like he would say, "Oh, okay, so in this scene, um the parents here want to feel sort of like um he was like, they want to it wants to feel confusing or something, or it wants to feel like um like something is seriously wrong, or this is the first time in the movie where we get to see this, and therefore it should feel this way, and all this stuff." And then I was kind of just trying to figure out how to make that be a feeling in music without, it's sort of weird because such an abstract thing and such a like a personal thing as to what feels like what in music.
Was it
I mean,
difficult?
dude, it was super difficult, like to find those, to get that initial vibe happening, and to find the initial sort of things that he was going for was really hard. But once I found that, I found it was actually kind of easy. But it was just, yeah, finding that initial vibe and knowing what is
So like
useful
dialing
and
in his vision.
sort of, yeah, basically. So it's kind of like, let's say you were um let's say that you were commissioned to do the sound design for Transformers, but you had never seen Transformers before, so you didn't know about all this crazy Foley stuff that they were gonna do, right? So let's say you were the guy, and at the start of the movie, the guy was like, "Oh, it's a big robot. It has to sound like this." It would take you a while, to figure out like, oh, okay, I need to layer like fucking pogo stick noises with car door slams and like granular synthesis and like wavetable synthesis and like all this crazy shit.
Right.
But once you found, I guess, like once you would find that sort of idea, then it would become a lot easier to just make that stuff over and over again.
So once you found the sound and vibe he was looking for, it was then easy to then just produce more of that material, just variations of it.
Yeah, pretty much. And what I found in the end was that like a lot of what he was going for was sort of counterintuitive. It was like very, very atonal stuff and very, very sound design based stuff. And a lot of it was stuff that I would assume the sound designer would have done, like ambient pads and like glitchy, crazy shit. And I would consider a lot of it to be in the sound design realm, honestly. But I guess it's just the score now.
When are we going to see the movie?
I think it's going to be out this year sometime. I'm not sure when, but hopefully within the next few months, I guess.
That sounds awesome. I mean, at least to see a movie. I don't know. I don't know. Did you like the movie? I mean, are you allowed to say if you liked the movie or not?
I guess I am. Yeah, sure. Yeah, I like the movie. I haven't actually seen like the final version because the final version's not done.
Right.
But like I've seen like it's close to being done. I feel like, so I've seen like cuts of it, and I've seen like all the scenes obviously, and I think it'll be a good movie once it's all produced up nicely.
When it says music scored by, is it going to say Bill Day or is it going to say Mr. Bill?
It's gonna say Mr. Bill, but I can get that changed. Do you think I should change it, or do you
I
think I
like
should
Mr.
say?
Bill, man. It's your brand.
All right, yeah. Well, that's what it currently says, so I'll just leave it.
I mean, when you think about who else, what big names, come out and score movies, who's a good one that did the
Like Trent
Jizza?
Reznor or something.
Didn't the Kill Bill? Funny enough,
Oh,
the
okay.
Kill Bill soundtrack was done by the RZA or the Jizza, right?
I have no idea. I know that like Gone Girl and stuff recently was done by Trent Reznor, and The Social Network as well.
Yeah, look that one up.
Kill Bill soundtrack. Yeah. Wait. Sound RZA.
RZA, yeah, the RZA. He's one of the members of Wu-Tang.
Wait, no way, really?
Yeah, so when you think about it, he
Holy
left
shit.
his artist name.
Huh. Okay.
as opposed to, you know,
Robert Fitzgerald Diggs.
yeah, whatever, the third.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it's up
Fuck.
to you. I think I would
Yeah.
definitely stick to, you know, the brand.
Mr.
But
Bill,
that's
yeah.
I like Bill Day. I mean, I flip a coin, whatever.
Yeah, yeah. I've thought a few times about changing my whole brand to Bill Day. Just because I don't know, but it doesn't matter, I guess. Um, there was also that
If it wasn't so established, I'd say maybe go ahead and change it. But you have a whole thing that's like years established. Whether it's the mascot, whether it's just your whole thing is Mr. Bill to me.
yeah, true. There's this dude called Junkie XL who does a lot of scores. Who's really good.
Right.
His name is Tom Holkenberg, and the other day I was actually watching this movie on Netflix, and I was like, oh, this music sounds pretty cool, and it said it's scored by Tom Holkenberg, and I was like, who the fuck is Tom Holkenberg? And then I like Googled it, and I was like, oh shit, it's Junkie XL. So in that case, maybe he should have used Junkie XL there instead of Tom Holkenberg, because I would have known who it was straight
You
away.
could actually probably put Bill Day on it if you don't want to necessarily be super affiliated with it, because you know the
True,
majority of people who know you as Mr. Bill, and when they
true,
see you
true.
scored by Bill Day, it's just gonna be some guy named Bill Day.
Yeah,
So
true.
maybe if you do some work that you don't stand behind too heavily, go ahead and do Bill Day. But if you want to, you know, represent your brand, I guess you would say, then Mr.
Yeah,
Bill
yeah.
maybe.
Do you think that's why that Tom Holkenberg might have done that?
That's
Bec-
I would who knows?
So check this out. Check this out. This is the stuff that he's done. He's done like Nike Olympics campaigns, the Nike World Cup, the Cadillac Super Bowl, the Heineken commercials, the Adidas commercials, the Visa commercials,
Whoa.
like all this crazy shit. And then he's done like fucking remixes for like Coldplay and Block Party and Depeche Mode and like just all these people. And then he's scored about 40 films or something. He's scored, yeah, these dudes, they put in work, man. Like these guys are insane.
It almost could
Um,
be like a double persona. It's like whatever person you feel like waking up that day as is what you go in as.
yeah, dude. I mean, shit. Like this is what he did in 2015. He did Run All Night, Mad Max Fury Road, Kill Your Friends, Black Mass, and Point Break. And then in 2016, he did Deadpool, Batman vs Superman: Dawn of Justice, Brimstone, and Spectral. Spectral was actually the one that I seen.
Wow.
Where it said Tom Holkenberg. And then 2017, he's already done 2 movies for 2017. So it's like, how do you write that many?
How do you? I was
Fucking...
just gonna say that. How do you do that? Or he's just a machine at this point because he's
Okay,
done it so
so
many times.
I watched this tutorial series of his the other day, and he's just got his shit like set up for workflow like to the max, because like you have to, once you're doing that many movies, you need to be able to just bam like put shit out. You know, like you can't be fucking around.
Right.
So he runs this thing called Vienna. What's it called? Vienna something library or some shit. Fuck, where is it? I'll find it. Give me one sec. Cool random things. Vienna, shit. Oh man, I gotta find this thing. Oh, Vienna Symphonic Library, I think it's called. And basically, what it is it's like you can run a separate setup on, like you can run a server basically, and on the server, it has like all of your contact instruments loaded, and it has like all of your plugins loaded, like Serum and all that shit. So basically, when you're on your main computer, you're just running, like, say he runs Cubase, but in our case it would be Ableton. So you'd just be running an Ableton session with like 1,000 channels in it, and in all of those 1,000 channels were just instruments already loaded and EQ'd and set up in this huge template how you like them. And then in Cubase, I guess you have like a channel searching function. So like you'd be like, oh, I want a cello, and you could just type in cello, or you could just go to your string section, and like in your string group, you just have all this shit already loaded, and it's just all just preloaded on a server constantly.
Just
And he runs,
a super devoted setup.
yeah, he runs 6 fucking servers, man, in his studio, and all of these things are just devoted to keeping his plugins preloaded, so that when he goes into his studio, he's not waiting at all for anything. And if he needs to like open a new session, it's just instant. Like it doesn't have to load all the contact instruments again and stuff, because it's
Right.
just kind of like, it's just like bam, open. Because, and so all his main computer is doing is telling things to happen at certain times. Basically, it's
It's
just
just
saying like,
dictating stuff. It's not
yeah,
doing
exactly.
any of the work.
Yeah, exactly. And then all these like other servers just doing all the hard work. So it's pretty nuts, dude.
Look
Like,
what you have to look forward to, man.
yeah, exactly.
You're gonna have a sick setup like this. It sounds like.
I would love to, man. That would be so cool. But yeah, it's seems super handy to have that. And then he just has like he has like these iPads in his studio with just like lots of touch surfaces, so everything's like easily grabbable. And then he has like these channel strips and shit that like he can just apply things in Cubase to, so he can quickly like be very tactile with his mixing and stuff. And yeah,
I'm really interested in seeing this series. You do me a favor and shoot me a link for the series that you're describing, or maybe I'll just
dude.
search it myself. But that sounds super interesting. Does it have is obviously video, so you can see his studio and whatnot?
Yeah, yeah, it's like a full-on like video series.
Ooh,
I'll find
cool.
it. It's yeah, I'll find it and send it to you. It's but for those who are watching, maybe I'll link it in the description or whatever. But
Yeah, yeah.
it's
That's heavy, man.
yeah, it's called Studio Time with Junkie XL, and it's like a 10 episode series. I'm gonna send you the link right now.
And for those watching and listening that are definitely interested, we're gonna make Bill post this info in the show notes.
Yeah, and then also here's I'm gonna link as well the thing that you can use to turn an old computer into like a server, so you can just keep your instruments preloaded and stuff.
But does that mean you have to have two computers running then? You got to have like a separate computer for that, and then one
Yeah,
computer that does the dictation of the
yeah, exactly.
delegation of process.
Yeah, exactly. So you would, yeah, if you have like an old spare computer or something, like even if it's just like I don't know, if you're writing music like me on a desktop and you have just like a MacBook sitting around, you could do it with that.
I have,
You know,
I have one. Really?
yeah, yeah, you could do it with that.
Wow. Yeah,
So
please send me that. And yeah, anybody who's watching, you're gonna learn some stuff.
yeah, it might be a cunt to set up. I haven't actually tried yet, but I had a friend in LA. I don't know if you know Fine Cut Bodies.
Yes. I mean,
Yeah,
I don't, not
he,
personally.
yeah. Well, I found out about this particular thing through him, and he was running his MacBook in that way, like just keeping all these instruments loaded on like treating it as a server, basically.
Nice. All right. Sounds good.
Yeah, dude.
So moving on, you obviously your YouTube thing we've touched on. You got this awesome movie coming out here soon, which you've scored the entire thing. We just discussed your entertainment packed tour, your 30 location tour. I know that you have a very solid website,
Yeah.
Mr.
So
Bill's Tunes. So please
yeah, yeah.
do me and the listeners a favor and let us know what that is and what that's all about.
Yeah, so Mr. Bill's Tunes is a website where I release a bunch of stuff. I release like project files for my tunes. I release tutorial series, like big tutorial series that go for like 10 to 20 hours long and stuff, of just explaining my entire process from start to finish. I have a big series called the Devices series, and that explains what like every single parameter on every single device in Ableton does. I have like lots of just content up there that's super helpful, I feel like, for learning, and just if you're interested in checking out my process and checking out project files. I also have sample packs up there. I have all my music up there. You can subscribe and give me $15 a month if you feel like getting access to all of it. And it really helps me because that's kind of how I'm making most of my living. Like, I don't make a living from touring anymore, just because, as you hear, like, the show is so crazy. It just costs so much money to take it on the road. So the tour grosses, like, I don't even want to say the actual number, but like, the tour grosses like a significant sum.
The tour grossed
And
as much as the tour costed.
basically that's the
Right.
yep.
So you broke
And
even. You didn't lose money on it, hopefully.
no, I didn't lose money. Actually,
Okay, good.
this last tour, I think I walked away with like $1,000 or something. But considering like the amount it grossed, if I told you the number, you would spit chips, man. Like, it's ridiculous how much it cost. It's like if I told you how much I could have walked away with versus how much I did walk away with, you'd just be like, "You're fucking so stupid."
Do you think there's any way you can stream, like, in retrospect, looking back and knowing that you're going to do future tours, is there a way that you can dial in your all the costs and make it lucrative, or at least make it worth your while? Because I know you have fun, even though gas
Yeah, yeah.
station food
Oh yeah. I
can be
wouldn't call
awesome.
it. I wouldn't. I would call it as much fun as it is work. I would
Right.
say it's sort of like I do have fun, but it is work.
Sorry, I
Um,
have a Harley going by. There you go. He's
it's all
gone.
good. Cool. Sorry, what was the question again?
Oh, we're
It
talking
was
about streamlining your tour to
making it
make it worth
lucrative.
your
Yeah.
while.
Right. Yeah. No. Totally, man. There is a way to do it, and I could do that. But right now, I'm sort of like this last tour. We fucked up and like wasted a lot of money on stupid shit. Not stuff that we didn't need, stuff that we thought we needed that we ended up
That
not
not
so much
needing
needing. Like we bought an extra projector that we didn't need, but now I've got a third projector. So if one breaks or whatever, I've got a spare.
a backup.
And like yeah, just a bunch of shit where it's like a couple of $1,000 here, a couple of $1,000 there that didn't really need to be spent. That kind of just got spent.
Right.
So yeah, definitely we fucked up a little bit, but on top of that, I'm sort of just looking at it as an investment at this stage,
Yeah,
where it's like
you're getting some exposure, man. Right.
yeah, totally, and I think people are sort of like getting to know and see that what the shows are that I'm putting on. So when I come through their town, hopefully the word goes around that hey, there's a Mr. Bill show coming, and it's actually something that you should probably
Right. He
see
doesn't have
rather than
CDJs and a
yeah,
USB.
exactly. Right, exactly. Like that when you see me, it's actually I'm gonna put as much effort as I can in really to make it the coolest show I can.
Do
So
you have
yeah,
any of your shows? I know I've seen some cuts and some snippets, and Gardner actually posted his interview, and there's the beginning and the intro and the outro are some of your live show. Do you have like a full length live show available for anybody to view?
I don't. I wish I had a filmed one on the last tour, man, because it was definitely a cool thing to see. I feel like I think what I'm gonna do is release the audio though from one of the shows because I have the audio recorded from one of the shows.
Yeah, I'd like to
Um,
check that out, man.
yeah, the only thing is I'm about to play the same show in Australia like 5 times.
Yeah, we'll
So
just then release it after the fact.
that's what I'm gonna do. Yeah.
Sweet.
So I'm kind of holding off until about maybe like middle of March or something to release that set. But when I release that set, I also want to release like a big tutorial series of how the set works and how I built it.
Oh,
And
that's gonna be
um,
beautiful. Oh, that's
yeah,
gonna be beautiful. Because
and
I mean, I wanted to ask, but I know the nuts and literally describing it, and it just wouldn't do it justice. So I'm hoping
yeah,
there's
yeah.
an in-depth kind of thing that you could tear apart and reconstruct it for people to understand exactly how you're doing it.
Yeah, and I want to actually get like a my video guy to come over to my studio and have him sort of talk about what he does on his end as well, because that way we can kind of tie it all in together, and say like this is how the visual setup is running with the Ableton setup and all that stuff. Like talk about the Ableton stuff separately, but then also talk about the video stuff separately, and then talk about how it all sort of syncs together, and then perhaps even get my drummer to talk about what's going on his end because he's obviously playing all of the parts, and it would be interesting I think for drummers to see what goes into playing a Mr. Bill set.
That'd be nice. I'm also curious. You said concerning back to your. I'm sorry we got off topic, but we tend to do that, and it happens all the time in conversations that I've seen you have with people. They go off, and we'll be talking about philosophy and baroque music history here in a little bit. But I was curious that you have. Obviously, we were talking about your website. You're re-releasing it. I understand it's under kind of like an overhaul right now.
Yeah, totally. So hopefully in the next few weeks here we'll be relaunching it with a bunch of new content, and I'm like standardizing all the project files, which means that like every project file is going to have like a certain color scheme and everything's going to be named a certain way, and everything's going to be nice and clean. And I'm going to redo a couple of my series and add a bunch of like extra content for say like the Artemis to Bill series. I'm going to start to try and write a bit of supporting like written content to go with those series to make it a little bit more beneficial for people and make it so that the information from the series hopefully sinks in a little bit more, so I don't get these emails from things that I feel like I describe pretty clearly in the videos.
Right.
um so basically overall it's just like upping the standard of it, really, like all around trying to make it a better product and just trying to
How long is that taken to
uh,
overhaul? I mean, it sounds like you're going through all your projects. You're
Yeah, yeah.
changing all the colors of all the, you're changing drum groups to all blue. You're changing all your synth groups to
Mm.
green.
Yeah, it's taken months to go through and fix it all, and making
Wow.
sure that everything's frozen. Like, even if there's sidechain compressors on it, like routing the channel into a new channel so I can freeze the one with the third party plugins on it, um, and making sure that everything's collected and saved nicely and stuff. And yeah, it's taken months.
Yeah, if anybody listening isn't aware of MrBillsTunes.com, definitely go check it out. Subscribe. If you're a current BassGorilla subscriber, there's no harm in being, open to checking out and subscribing to multiple platforms, especially if, we obviously provide content that covers all spectrums and genres. But Bill's definitely has a site that is, it's got a lot of unique material that I can't even comprehend how he comes up with a lot of it. So if you're listening and you don't know about Mr. Bill's tunes, go check that out.
Yeah, definitely. That'd be helpful.
It'd be helpful. Yeah, support your artists, support the music. It's interesting because now I guess we could go into the alternative revenue streams that, if bedroom producers are trying to make some extra cash, what do you recommend a person who's trying to go, quit their day job and go full on? What do you think that person should prioritize, at least?
I would say that, if you're trying to make a living from music full time, uh, I mean, it's super hard to say, because I think we talked about this last time. Like, you don't really have control over a lot of the stuff that happens in your career. Like, I've had so much good stuff happen in my career, and I haven't really been able to control any of that. It's just come along and gone, and it just happens, and sometimes it doesn't. It's like the only metric that you can really control is how hard you're actually working. So as long as you're just working super hard every day, then that's all you can really do. But I would say, yeah, just work hard and start putting stuff out there, and just try to be the most honest person you can about it all, I guess, and hopefully it'll work out.
So the only control you have is showing up.
Yeah, basically, I would say, like, because you don't, like, I had no control over getting a movie score. Like, that's not something that I can't just go out and, now that I've finished this movie score, I can't just go and get another one. Like, it doesn't work that way. So
Right.
all I can control right now is just making more shit. Like, that's how I got the first one, like, just by making stuff and putting it out there. So yeah, I would say just, like, work as hard as you can, and hopefully good stuff happens.
How do you feel about playing an instrument? Do you think it's necessary that a person who's making music plays an instrument?
I don't think it's necessary, but I think it, like, would make your time easier. Sort of like you were saying, you try to write, like, linear type of music or whatever, and you find it hard to break out of that loopy sort of mindset.
Right.
Which makes sense, though, because, like, if you're not playing music and you're listening to loopy sounding music, then you're naturally going to try and assimilate to that, I guess. Sort of like the reason why accents exist or whatever. Like, I sound like an Australian and you sound like an American because we just try to assimilate to our surroundings a little bit. Um, so yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's not the best explanation, but yeah, I mean, like, I definitely think that we should, yeah, playing instruments definitely helps with, like, writing music, whereas I feel like writing production style music, sort of like, I don't know, Frequent is a good example of someone who, like, I don't think is super musical, but he writes really cool sounding shit, but it does sound super loopy and it sounds like just super produced.
Right.
I would say that's the difference, really, is, like, if he learned an instrument and learned how to write really nice music, man, he'd be fucking so next level.
You- you- there was something that you had said during that Gardner interview that I was listening to, or watching rather. You mentioned, because I'm consistently trying to go back to old tunes and finish them. Like, I have this ridiculously large hard drive, completely, 150 different projects, and my ultimate dream is to get in there and start finishing them. But you had touched on something that made me think that might not necessarily be the best idea. that I should potentially spend time on creating new material that I can finish in the moment. That if you go back and start working on old material, the person and the mindset you were in or at when you had created and done whatever work that you had done originally, to then go back and try and recreate that mood, or I'm curious if you could touch on that. It was really interesting to me.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know really know what my point was there. I guess like
It rocked my brain because I was like, huh, you're it was an interesting point that seemed like it could, maybe it's not the correct answer or the wrong or right answer, but it was definitely a different way to think about things, that instead of trying to finish a project that, beating my head against the keyboard trying to finish, when I could be, creating new material that might turn into a flow. And it's happened to me where I can write a tune if I'm in the flow in a day. I mean, I can get out the bulk of the ideas in a day.
yeah,
And
yeah.
thinking about, why don't I shoot for those kind of moments where I can get into a flow and rock a tune out, as opposed to continuously frustrating myself with a tune that I wrote a year and a half ago.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I guess um, if I say both statements though, they sound true. Is the
Right.
thing
So I
like?
guess I guess then my point being that maybe trying both things, and I guess work it out for whatever works best for you.
Yeah, I guess so. Like, I mean, for me personally, right now, I'm not trying to open old projects and finish them because I guess at the moment I just don't really see the point. I would prefer to, yeah, get that first 90% done on 10 tunes a week than I would bang my head against the wall for an entire week trying to finish one.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, I mean, all that extra little producing shit doesn't really fucking matter. I mean, like, again, like Frequent is a great example. He's been working on this album for 2 years. And the album sounds great, but at the end of 2 years, he's got one album, like, and it's his first album, and it's great. And it's not to, discredit or anything, but it's sort of like he could have done a lot more, and probably if I probably would have preferred to hear slightly less production and slightly more fleshed out musical ideas or something. So I guess it's a balance, and it's all about like your ideals of what good music is to you and stuff. But yeah, I don't know. It's like I said, I think both statements sound true to me at this point in time, and which the both statements would be: one, finish as much music as you possibly can, and the other one would be produce one piece of music until it's perfect so you can release it. And I guess the second statement of producing something up until it's good enough to release or whatever, that comes from more of a business place in my mind. I feel like it's sort of like I want to do that
See,
so
that
I
to me
can.
is the answer right there, or at least for me, that the first statement is more true for me than the second statement.
Yeah, so if the second one's coming from a business place, then you got to ask like, what's really more important? I guess you need the money to live, and you need to grow your fan base and all of that sort of stuff. But you also need to grow as an artist too. So it's kind of like, yeah, I guess there's like pros and cons to both of those ideas. I guess finding a balance is the best
Right.
thing to do there.
Dabble in both, but I appreciate your words of wisdom. I don't want to keep you any longer. I know you got a Twitch stream to do here soon, and 365 is it's still going to be going, and I'll definitely check it out for a little bit before I hit the bed.
Yeah, dude.
Um, do me a favor, give out, even though I know it's same across all platforms, but go ahead and give out all your pertinent contact info.
Yeah, man. So it's just Mr. Bill's Tunes everywhere. So MrBillsTunes.com, Facebook.com/Mr. Bill's Tunes, SoundCloud.com/Mr. Bill's Tunes, YouTube.com/Mr. Bill's Tunes, Twitch.tv/Mr. Bill's Tunes, Twitter.com/Mr. Bill's Tunes. Just the same for everything, pretty much.
For everything.
Yeah.
And this has been again another great interview for me. It's an absolute pleasure and honor to speak with someone that I've been following for so many years. You've taught me tons and tons of things, and a lot of my production techniques I can chalk up to Mr. Bill and Mr. Bill's tunes. Of course, BassGorilla. I'm not going to discount them whatsoever because I'm a subscriber and lifelong member for them also. But definitely, I can say that a lot of my influences come from you, Mr. Bill, and I
Awesome.
I appreciate it, man. And it's been so weird doing this interview a second time.
Yeah, feels a little bit cheesy the second time.
Yeah, it's almost like I wish I could just edit because the first one seemed like it had so much more of a natural flow to it than the second one. But
Mm.
I'm gonna leave it to you to make it work.
Yeah, no, I think it'll be fine.
All right. Well, this is Robert, Mr. Fumowitz, another BassGorilla interview signing off. And again, Mr. Bill, thank you so much, brother. And hopefully we'll
Peace.
see you. We'll see you on a stage sooner than later. And enjoy Oz. And yeah, hopefully you're scoring the Godfather 4.
Dude, fuck yeah. All right. Peace out, Bass Gorilla peoples.
Later, brother.